asking versions. Okay. We're going to be starting Shiur on Siman Kuf Samach Tes, which is the halachos that have to do with ריבית through a goy. It means ריבית that the goy is part of the deal. The first seif in Shulchan, we're going to go through the first three seifim in Shulchan Aruch because they're interesting yesodot. You already went through. We mentioned some of the yesodot you have to look at whenever you learn any seif in Shulchan Aruch in the Siman to understand what the reason for everything is, how to approach each case. Over here, giving you an example of how to learn these seifim. The same thing will apply going weiter. The Siman Kuf Samach Tes opens up with a case, a very called simple case. Reuven borrowed money from a guy with ריבית, $1,000. Has to pay him 10% a year. That's another $100. And that means at the end of the year, has to pay him $1,100. Comes the end of the year, or according to some opinions, even the middle of the year. The nafkamina is, I'm not going to get to it now because it's more relevant to later on Shulchan Aruch, but whether it's middle of the year or whatever comes the time, he wants to give back the guy the money. Payback. He meets another friend, another Yid. The other Yid says, why do you want to give the money back to a guy? Give me the money, and I'll take over your place. I'll take your position in this loan, and I'll pay the guy, whatever it is, has to be paid. The Torah and the Shulchan Aruch, both paskin straight up, it's aser. And it's ריבית קצוצה. Yeah, it's both in the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. It's clear it's ריבית קצוצה. Why? And now, if the second Jew tells the first Jew, "I'll give you ריבית," it's for sure also. But even if he says, "I'm not going to give you," I'm taking over your position to pay the guy, it's still also. Torah explains why is that. Because the second Yid is giving the money to the guy as a shliach of the first Yid. That means the second Jew becomes the shliach of the first Jew, and he gives the ריבית to the guy. And therefore, it's similar to somebody who tells his friend, "I'll lend you money on condition that you give ריבית to a guy." Over there, it's pashut that it's us. Yeah. Now, just to think about it for a second. Over here, when it's transferred, when one person takes over the position of somebody else, before we even get into the shaila of shlichus, which is one of the 4 or 5 points that I mentioned a bunch of times, you have to look in the Siman. It was in the Kuda v'chrayas. Reuven, the first Jew, is still on the hook with the guy. Reuven is the one that signed the bill with the guy. So here's a chrayas. What he's doing is he's not transferring his achrayas to the second Jew. He's transferring the responsibility of payment to the second Jew. The second Jew is taking over his position as a payer. But klapi the goy, the achrayas is still the first one. So if there's no payments, the goy is going to go after Reuven, not after Shimon. In such a case, the goy is not aware of it b'chol. So what are we talking about over here? According to the Torah, very simple. Shimon became the shliach of Reuven to give money to the guy. That's also. And then the Torah continues, and it makes no difference whether Reuven was owed money to the guy, and Shimon came and took over his position. And it's interesting to note that the Torah uses the words malva and loiva when he refers to Reuven and Shimon. It's very important because it means the Torah looks at it as right now, when such a scenario, all that happens is that Reuven becomes a lender. Since the money is in his hands, the money is his, it's on his achrayas. He becomes a lender of the guy's money to Shimon. And he's charging him ריבית. It's being given to a guy. No, but you can look at it from that angle also. He becomes the malva, and Shimon becomes the loiva. That's the words that the Torah uses. And the guy goes and gives the ריבית to the Yid bishviloi on behalf of Reuven. He says not only in such a case, but even if Reuven is not chayiv anything to Shimon, anything to the guy, and Shimon, basically Reuven gives a loan to Shimon and tells him, you go and pay ribis to the guy. So over here, he's not, what he's doing is he's lending money to Shimon, he's telling him pay ribis to a third party, he's still asur. Because b'schar alvo that Reuven gives to Shimon, so Shimon gives the guy the ribis on behalf and on request of the malva, and it's considered ribis ktsutza. Ribis ktsutza means it's also midiraisa, and therefore the Rama will tell you right away on the first seif, if any money was paid from Shimon to the guy, the Bezdin will go and take it out of Reuven. Reuven never got that money. Because Shimon paid it to the guy, doesn't make a difference. We look at it that a loan that Reuven gave to Shimon with ribis ktsutza, and Reuven told Shimon, you pay ribis to the guy. So it's on behalf of Reuven. It's really for the Reuven. Therefore, it's awesome.
Even if Shimon gives money to tzedakah,
we give the tzedakah. Yeah, that's before.
It's all the same logic.
It's all the same logic. Yeah, it becomes like it's b'shlichusay, or you could look at it as two separate loans, as just transferring to a new loan. Reuven and Shimon are the ones that are making the deal between themselves, and there's ribis involved. It's also midiraisa. Right. So this case is fairly simple. You look at it, very simple. What do you have over here? Reuven has money. Before he pays back his loan, the money is his. Milva leitzanita, you have a right to spend it. It's your money. It's not the guy's money anymore. You have your own right to spend it, and if you want to lend it out, you're more than welcome to lend it out. Whatever you want, you can do with it. It's your money. So therefore, when it gets transferred from Reuven to Shimon, it's another loan that goes from one to another. So what is that? It's very simple. So like Reuven tells Shimon, I'm going to lend you $1,000 with a 10% interest. And being that I have another loan with the guy that I owe him 10%, so save me the hassle, and instead of paying me the ribis that you owe me from my loan to you, pay directly to the guy. But it's what's going on is really it's Shimon paying Reuven the 10% of ribis that they determined, and Reuven paying it to the guy. Elamai just skipping Reuven in the middle, so save me the hassle. I don't have to do it. I anyways owe money to the guy with ribis, so just pay it directly to him. Right, and even though the Poil Reuven doesn't get a penny out of this deal, because it goes straight to the guy, still in all we look at it as either mitzvah that it's going from two loans, or shlucha shalom k'maisei, that Shimon becomes Reuven's shliach to give the money to the guy, and therefore we take it out of Reuven's hands, whatever he pays, whatever he gave. Shulchan Aruch continues and says, and this is based on Mis Yosef, that this issur of ribis ktsutza is even if Shimon is going to go and write a new shtar with his name to the guy, and gives his own mashkin to the guy, and gives his own ribis to the guy. That means not only is he saying, "Give it to me, and I'm going to pay the guy," he actually goes and writes a zettel. I owe Johnny $1,000 plus 10% a year, and he goes to the guy and gives him a mashkin. He says, "I'm taking over the position of Reuven." He gives him a mashkin, pays him ribis. Still, it's also. Yeah. Why? Because the way the process originally started was Reuven and Shimon determined that it's going to transfer from one to another. So the guy was not involved in the first discussion when the money was transferred. So Shimon tells Reuven, "I'll take over your position," and then Shimon goes and signs a shtar with the guy. So the original transfer of money was be'isur, it became a loan from Reuven to Shimon with ribis, so it's also.
Is that allowed?
It's also midiraisa.
No, I'm saying not from a ribis standpoint, from regular like transferring to chayv, meaning the guy doesn't know.
No. I mean, you're talking about legally.
I'm saying
practically no, unless the lender agrees to it. No, you can't transfer. You can't just pull over one day and give the mortgage over and tell the bank it's no longer me. It's Chaim Yankel took over my position, or Chaim Yankel walks into the bank. Then maybe.
But if he does agree, who would be?
If the guy agrees, it's still a problem because it's being transferred from one to another. But
Why?
Because it went from the hand of the Jew to the next Jew. The guy afterwards took it over. It still becomes Rishlichas of the Yisrael. The guy lent it to the Jew. It's one loan. The guy looks at it as one loan. I lent money to get Rebis.
You can't look at it as like you tore up the contract.
No, that's the whole hemshach of this Siman, that you don't look at it. It's only to a certain way of being able to cancel the contract and go weiter. The credit cards, some banks allow for somebody to take over the loan. Yeah, but again, this Alter Rebbe has explains it's based on the Shulchan Aruch. You can't just sell a document to a guy. I mentioned it in a different year. Tur continues, same thing in Shulchan Aruch. Third case, Reuven comes to the guy with money and tells him, "Here, I want to give you the money back. I'm done. My loan is over." And the guy tells him, "Don't give me the money. Give it to Shimon, and you become potter. You become potter from the debt. And I will work out a deal with Shimon. I'm going to work out a deal with Shimon to pay. He'll pay me ribis, keren ribis, whatever it is. Over here, it's still aser. However, there's no more lashon of ribis deraisa, no ribis k'tzutza. As the Torah says, it came on the kibbutz miyad Yisrael. Nire kenoisen ribis the goy b'shlichusay. It looks like he's giving ribis to a guy in the shlichus of the Jew. That means over here, the money got transferred from the guy, from the yid to the yid, based on the request of the guy. So that he wanted to pay the guy. The guy says, "Don't give it to me, give it to the other Jew, and I'll work out with him a deal." So we see over there, it's not ribis k'tzutza, because it's not, the Jew is not negotiating with the other Jew, but it's nirek ribis, because going from the hand of the Jew to the hand of another Jew, it looks like it's ribis that he's transferring, and it looks like he's becoming the shliach of the first yid of Reuven to pay the guy ribis. The Beis Yosef brings the name of Rabbi Yerucham Yesh Matinim Bezeh. And l'chayra, when you look at it, it seems like the yesod over here is whether you release yourself from the achrayas at the moment that the guy says v'yipoter. Now you're going to see this coming through across the next few sifim, also and across the Siman. When does the first lender release himself from the obligation for the loan? The fact that I said, give it to the other Jew and he'll take over and you become potter from it, does that mean that the guy released you completely from your obligations? Lav dafka. Could be in the guy's mind, somebody else took over the payment plan. You became potter, yeah, but in my mind, it's one loan, just got transferred from one Jew to another Jew. The next Jew is just borrowing from this Jew, and it's just continuing the path. You gave it to him. It's still he didn't give them, since he didn't give the money directly back to the guy. So, and he just said something, so it's not enough. But ultimately, it's still not awesome midiraisa. Why? Because one Jew doesn't tell another Jew, give me ribis, or give the guy ribis on my behalf. The first Jew tells the other Jew, the first Jew doesn't tell the Jew anything. The guy tells the first Jew, give the money to the second Jew, and I'll work out a deal with him. So therefore, it's not asur midiraisa, it's nirek ribis. Soon we're going to see what the definition of nirek ribis is, if it's deraisa, if it's derabanan. If it's derabanan, if it's only marisayin. Yeah. The Beis Yosef continues and says there's also another similar case where the Tamidei Arashbar Matir, where he comes to the Rabbi Yerucham that's Matir, and the Shulchan Aruch doesn't pass like Rabbi Yerucham, it's also. The Shulchan Aruch passes it's also. But if he comes and he says, the guy tells Reuven, don't give me the money. He also doesn't tell him, give it to somebody else as a loan. He just tells him, give it to Shimon for him to hold for me. So then, the Tamidei Arashba say that it's mutter, and they use the lashon afapish le'zacha b'ma'avit kachav. Even though the guy did not acquire the money, right? It's important to remember this detail because again, like I said, as you learn, you're going to see the elements of this siman. We already discussed shlichus. We already discussed achrayas. We already discussed Marasayan. Now we're discussing Zocha. If the guy was Zocha in the money. Even though the guy was not Zocha in the money, so Be'etzem, the first Jew did not become partner from the loan. Still in all, since the money from Reuven to Shimon did not come with the words loan attached to it, Elamai came because even though the guy is afterwards going to work out a deal with Shimon to pay ribis, it's still mutter according to Talmidei Rashba, the way the Beis Yosef brings it. And the Ramah brings it in Sif Gimel in the name of Yeshayim and does not bring anybody who disagrees with these people. So it seems like the Ramah holds like Allah. Yeah, the Prisha comes over there on that Sif, and he says, even though, the first question you would have over here is, when the Yid, the first logical question, we discussed the element of Shluchus, right? So comes the first question you come to your mind is, when the guy tells the Jew, you, Reuven, give the money to Shimon. Why is that us? He says, L'chayra, ein shluchus lakum. That's the first question you should think. What are you doing? You're not. There is shluchus lakum. There is no shluchus lakum. What's the role of the Reuven giving to Shimon over here? What's the problem over here? So he says because of nira karibus, right? So he explains. He says first of all, the din of shluchus ma'akum shluchus ein shluchus lakum is only when there's a goy to a Jew, Jew to a goy. But when there's a Jew to a Jew, there is shluchus. So therefore, when the goy tells Reuven, please give them to Shimon. So in such a scenario, there is no shluchus in the goy to Reuven. So Reuven is not fulfilling the guy's request to lend money with ribis. So what's the issur over here? And the Pesach says, "Ein by ribis mamash." It's only nira ribis. Only seems like ribis. Shimon is only accepting the money on behalf of the guy. Reuven doesn't tell Shimon that he has to give ribis. Because the guy tells Reuven, I'll work out a deal with Shimon afterwards. So there's no discussion of ribis, and there's no money being transferred. And the money that Shimon is accepting is only on behalf of the guy. So it's not ein by ribis. The prish is ein by ribis. It seems like it's only nira ribis. It's only an issue of marisayin. The Bach doesn't use the words ein by ribis mamash. The Bach says there is no issur deraisa. Why is there no issur deraisa? Because Shimon is not paying the ribis to the guy on behalf of Reuven. Why is that? Because really we said in the Chatchila, what's the problem that Shimon is giving the money to Reuven? That Shimon is giving the money to the guy as the representative of Reuven. But over here, the guy already said that non vi pater. You're already out of the picture. The guy already patered, they already released Reuven from the chayv. Elamai is nira, it's nira kenois and ribis l'nochri b'shuli. So it seems like he's going to be giving. It's a nira. Also, it seems like Reuven, like Shimon is going to be giving ribis to the guy on behalf of Reuven. And therefore the issue is with the Rabbanon. So the Bach puts it as the issue of the Rabbanon, which is avak ribis. Right? So it's also, it's not that. The Prisha seems to be taking the approach that it's a ein by ribis mamash. It's only marisayin, doesn't mention the word derabbanon. Yeah, and I pointed out over here that it seems that the Bach seems that it's ribis derabbanon. The Prisha seems that it's only marisayin. Happens to be that there are the Rishonim which consider this similar to deraisa also in such a scenario, but they were not brought down malach. There is another case in the Shulchan Aruch where it says even if Reuven does not chayav anything to not chayav any ribis to the guy, and he goes and gives Shimon the money and tells Shimon, you go and pay this loan back to the guy and pay him ribis, but Reuven didn't owe any ribis to the guy, it's still usher. Even though there's no shluchas over here, because Reuven didn't owe any ribis to the guy. So when Reuven is telling Shimon to give ribis to the guy, it's between Shimon and the guy. Still in all, being that at the moment that the money was in, the moment of transfer of money, the achrayas of money was on Reuven. Therefore, it's his money. So he created a new loan. He tells Shimon, I'm giving you this amount of money, and you pay ribis to the guy. So it's awesome. Because again, going back, Did I say it? Yeah. Now let's look at Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe and Siman and Seif Samach Vav combines these cases together. Does not Bechlal discuss the issue of Deraisa. Goes straight into the Rabbanans. And obviously Deraisa is not a Shaila Bechlal. He goes into the Rabbanans and adds takes the chumras of the deraisa into the rabbanon. Yeah.
The situation that Reuben repaid the ribbis.
Repay the ribbis.
He gave already, let's say he took $1,000. They said it was 10%. He gave the guy already the $100 already before when he gave him $1,000. Now she wants to pay the money.
Mm-hmm.
So he told him, by the way, if you're taking the money, you're gonna have to pay the guy another $100.
Yeah.
Rabbi Reuben doesn't owe him the $100 anymore. So we know that the $1,000 that he's paying now, he's paying another $100 for that.
Yeah, but right now the keren is still in Reuven's hands. Still
Correct.
belongs to the Reuven. So the Reuven
He's not getting the money. He's going. The guy's getting it directly.
doesn't make a difference. But since the money belongs to the Reuven and it did not go back to the ownership of the guy, so it seems whichever way you want to look at it, either.
It seems in the halacha, it seems that Shimon is taking the responsibility of the ribbis. So there's no ribbis anymore because Reuben paid the ribbis already.
Yeah, but it's a different. So it's worse
So
because
he's
it
paying it directly to the guy. It's not
doesn't make a difference. It's worse because what happens is over here, Reuven doesn't owe any ribbis to the guy. So he's not transferring a ribbis. What he's telling him is, I'm lending you now $1,000 at 10% interest, which you're not going to pay me. You're going to pay somebody else. So it's also
But I'm not going to give him it.
doesn't make a difference. But it's my loan. It's my money. It's my money. It's also yeah. The Alter Rebbe, since Sif Samach Vav discusses the Rabbanon, it's very interesting. We'll point out some of the interesting differences that you see in the Alter Rebbe from the Shulchan Aruch. Alter Rebbe says like this: Im hoyo chayav anachri mois mikvar, you owe money to the guy from the past. The Omar lo yanochri, and now the guy tells him, initiates, Tnom lechavercho shemvakesh livoisam imeni beribis vehi poter ato meachriyusam miyad shetitnom lechavercho. Says the guy tells him, take the $1,000 that you owe me with the ribis, give them to your friend Shimon who wants to borrow money from me beribis, and at the moment that you give it to your friend, you become potter from the loan towards me. It means the guy initiated the request. The guy tells him you're going to become potter, tells him when you're going to become potter. The moment the money hits your friend's hands, that moment you become potter. Then also litnam lechaverim miyad liyad medivri sefer. To transfer it from hand to hand directly to the other Jew is also medivri sefer. Even if the Shimon goes and gives us signs a new document of loan, and he gives mashkainas to the guy, still also. Why? Being that until now the money was under Reuven's achrayus, it seems that Reuven is lending Shimon the money, but and therefore it's also. Even though you're not going to give the ribis to Reuven, but you're giving it directly to the guy, and the moil klum, doesn't help you anything. Right, so over here we see a few interesting nekudas from Alter Rebbe when it comes to the Isud Rabbanon. For Isud Deraisa, Alter Rebbe doesn't discuss Bichlal. Talk about the Isud Rabbanon. First of all, the Alter Rebbe just makes a general statement, and any point where the guy tells you, give it to somebody else, you don't have to bring it to the guy. Could be that the guy picks up the phone and tells you, transfer the money to somebody else. It's also. Even if he says we potter, the moment you give it to Shimon, you become potter. Even if he tells him Tanam, give him over to him. It's awesome. The Isser is miyad liyad. Yeah, from hand to hand. Direct transfer. Which is the Indian of Marasayan. So that seems, just common sense. If it wasn't miyad liyad, it wasn't Asr, which we're going to see later. You put it on the ground, it goes through the hands of the guy, it's not miyad liyad, it's a whole different gather. Miyad liyad, yeah. Because it shows on the account, sent by this guy to that guy. If you do it through the...
It's a normal way of accepted way of sending
normal,
money.
yeah.
Blockchain.
Huh?
Blockchain.
Blockchain is also normal way of sending money, but if you send through the way the money launderers do it, then lav dafka, that considered normal place. So we'll leave it up to somebody to write in the order. Huh?
How do the money launderers do it?
I'm on video, I can't say. This issue is midrabanon. Avak ribis, it's not only Marasayan. Interestingly, the Alter Rebbe takes this din that it says in Shulchan Aruch regarding that it's also even if you write a new shtar with the guy, and you give him mashkainas and everything, which is actually written by the Shulchan Aruch in the case of a deraisa, when Reuven tells Shimon, when Shimon tells Reuven, give it to me, and not when a guy tells Reuven, give it to Shimon. Alter Rebbe sticks it in here also, makes it also the Rabbanan also. Yeah, and it seems like most of the main nikud over here is if it is, we look at if it's b'achra yusoi or not. That's what it seems like from here. Later we're going to see that it seems the other way around from the
What's the last word?
The words of the Alter Rebbe is Kevon she'ad ato hoyu b'achra yusoi. Being that until now was in his achrayas, means we focus on the element of achrayas also. Focus on the element of achrayas, we focus on the element.
It seems like even though the guy it's kind of going back to the guy and then the Shimon, it looks like it's going.
Yeah, being still in achrayas, yeah, still in achrayas. Yeah, so there's a few concepts over here which I mentioned before we started the shiur. It's important to remember them. Every sif you're going to learn, you should think about these concepts. The concept of shlichus. Who is giving money to who? Who is becoming the shliach of who? Is the shliach to a guy or not? Is there a second loan happening over here? A loan to a loan? Is there nira karibis? A shayla? Maybe it's nira karibis. Maybe it's not ribis gemura. The kuda whether the guy is zoicher or not zoicher in the money that we saw from there. Tamidei Rashba that the guy, when does the guy acquire the money or not? And the achrayus, who's achrayus on the money?
Why isn't it gay the fact that there's shlichus? Meaning this whole the Isser is even without shlichus.
The Isser is even without shlichus, but one of the elements that the Torah writes is the Isser is because he becomes a shliach. In the first case, he becomes a shliach of the Yid. Shimon becomes a shliach of Reuven to give money to the guy.
Yeah, meaning, but it's more.
That's
more
when he
just
transfers.
told him give money on my
Give
behalf.
ribis on my behalf. It becomes a shliach. It becomes the Yisrael. There's no shayla of shlichus. It's for sure a shliach. But now let's continue to Sif Beis. Yeah? Try to finish today. Sif Beis, the Torah writes that if the guy already received the money in his hands from the Jew, and then the guy gives it to Shimon, then it's the Shimon then Shimon is allowed to give money to the guy without a problem. And the Torah adds over there, it's even if the guy does not tell the Jew that you become potter by giving the money. The guy takes the money in his hands and gives it to somebody else, it's fine. Why is that? By the mere fact that he picked up the money in his hands, he released the first one from his obligations. And the Torah over there adds also, even if the guy afterwards takes the ribis and gives it to the first Jew, it's still mutter. Afterwards he tells why? Because the Yisrael receives the ribis on behalf of the guy. Yeah, that's what the Torah writes. It seems like the Torah doesn't mention that the guy has to tell the second Jew, the first Jew, accept ribis on my behalf. But the Taz is makpid. It seems the Taz says that the guy has to tell Reuven, you accept the money on my behalf from Shimon. Otherwise, it's not. Otherwise, it's us. There's no difference if he tells him accept the ribis, accept the keren. But according to the Taz, he has to tell him accept it on my behalf. According to the Torah, it doesn't seem like he cares whether he tells him accept it on my behalf or not. But Mistama, if he tells him accept it, he's accepting it on his behalf. Right? Now we're going to see that this one has all the 5 concepts we mentioned, and they all don't apply over here. Yeah, there's no concept of shlichus because Reuven gave it to the guy. So there's no Reuven to Shimon does not become the shliach of Reuven to pay to the guy anything. There's no 2 loans from Reuven to Shimon and from guy to Reuven and Reuven to Shimon because Reuven gave back the money to the guy and it's over, and he accepted the money in his hands. There's no nira karibis, not even nira karibis, because it's not passing from yad to miyad liyad, from the Jew to the Jew. It's already being given to the hands of the guy and he acquires it. There's no shayla if the guy acquired the money or not. It's in his hands. And there's no shayla whether the Yid is achrei on the money or not. The moment they give it back and the guy acquired the money, the Yid is potter from it. No more achrei. So all 5 elements over here don't apply. So you think about the 5 elements, you don't need a Shulchan Aruch to tell you that it's mutter. You see yourself, the 5 elements don't apply, it's mutter. The previous one, all 5 elements apply. You have shayas fakers and some of them, but all of them could apply. Then comes Sif Gimel, which is a little bit more complicated. We're not talking about that it was given to him directly. We're talking about the guy tells Reuven, put the money on the ground. This, by the way, the Chachma Sodom says you could also put it on the table. Same idea. Put it down. put it down, and he did so. Kach also, he did when he's stalik, and he nistalik. What nistalik means we're going to get to in a second. It could mean that he's nistalik from the chayv. It could mean that he's nistalik from the room. He left the room. Yeah, and then Shimon came and took the money and took upon himself the responsibility. That's what the Torah says. The Beis Yosef asks right away a question on the Torah. The Gemara, when the Gemara says that the guy tells the Yid put the money on the floor, and then afterwards somebody else takes it. So over there the Gemara says "Vi pater," she become pater, and the Torah does not mention the word "Vi pater." So does that mean that the Torah means that you don't have to say "Vi pater" over here, like you don't say "Vi pater" when he picks up the money with his hands, or not? So he says, yeah, according to the Torah, it's mashma that when the guy tells him to put it down, he means there's a "Vi pater." So you don't have to say "Vi pater." So the Bach holds the same way. So what's v'nistalik means? V'nistalik, he doesn't have to leave the room. V'nistalik probably means nistalik mechayvay. He became clear from his chayv. He put down the money, v'nistalik, and he became pater from his chayv. So then that's the way the Torah and the Beis Yosef understands. Taz comes a big question on the Beis Yosef. Halach and Chayshim Mishpat. If I owe money to somebody else, the one who I owe the money to tells me throw me the money. If he does not say that I become pater from the loan by throwing the money, if I throw the money, it's not enough. I'm still chayav until the money comes to his hands. It remains in my achrayus, even if the malva tells me throw it into my property. If he doesn't say that he pater by throwing it, I'm still achroy on the money until it comes to his hands. And the Taz explains, according to the Torah, l'chayra, we must say that the main isur has nothing to do with achrayus. Because if it would have to do with achrayus, the guy has to say very pater. It's not enough just to put it on the ground. It's probably only matasayin. According to the Torah, the only issue is matasayin. That as long as Shimon receives the money directly from the hands of Reuven, it's also mitzvah matasayin. But over here, he puts it on the ground. There's no more shayim. There's no more. It's not miyad liyad. Even if Shimon picks it up right away, he picks it up on the ground. There's no issue. And then, based on that, what does vi pater mean? The Taz explains that vi pater doesn't mean that you become pater from the achrayus. It means you leave the place. Vi pater like niftar l'darkei. You leave. And that's the lashon of v'nistalik of the Shulchan Aruch, that the Jew actually left the room. We'll soon understand what it means that he left the room. What does it have to? What does it help us? Anything? Yeah, but the moment the first Jew leaves the room, puts the money down on the ground, and leaves the room, he becomes. There's no more not a sign. He becomes pater from the achrayus already, and shine. And then when the next Jew comes and takes it, it's kosher. It's mutter. Yeah. So from the Taz, it seems that if you don't say vei pater, at least the Jew has to leave the room. From the Beis Yosef, it doesn't seem like that. The Beis Yosef doesn't seem he has to leave the room. Doesn't have to say vei pater. And as long as you follow what the guy says, it's enough. The Taz says either or. That's what's mashma from the Taz. And the Shach says, no, you have to tell the guy has to tell the Yid vei pater. That means he should become pater from the achrayus. If he does not say, just because he tells him nachal gabe karka, is not enough. Yeah? And the Bar Heitev understands that's machlokes in Taz and Shach. According to the Taz, you say vei pater or he leaves the room. According to the Shach, according to the Taz, according to the Shach, you need to say vei pater. Interestingly, the Bir Agro combines the Taz and the Shach together to say that you have to say vei pater, but it's not the mashmos of the Taz. However,
Taz says you need to do either one.
It seems like either one. Huh?
I mean, if you do either one, then Sunday already.
If we say vei pater from achrayus, he focuses on achrayus. If we say vei pater, he focuses from achrayus. And if he leaves, it shows he become pater from achrayus also.
So it's not. So you took care of Miriam.
Yeah, the nida doesn't apply because he picks it up from the ground. But nida is not enough.
But if he's still there,
you could say nida. Yeah, if he's still there, you can still say nida if there's no vei pater. But it seems like he has to leave the place. The Alter Rebbe in Sif Samach Vav, he says, Elokei Tzad Yas. After he says, what are you going to do when you have to transfer loan from one guy to another? He says, Yitnem liyad anochri, which is what we saw in Sif Beis, give it to the hand of the guy. Or Yanichem lefanav v'yistalik, v'yitnem chaver misham. Put it down in front of him, v'yistalik, not v'nistalik, v'yistalik, and you should leave. And then your friend comes and takes it. The Alter Rebbe also doesn't say, the Alter Rebbe also doesn't write you have to say v'yipoter. It seems that he follows the Taz. You don't have to say v'yipoter, but you have to pick up and leave the room. Yeah, and the Chayre you could say, what's the Yesod of the Machlokes between the Shach and the Taz? The Alter Rebbe follows the day of the Taz. If you look at the points that we mentioned before, if you look, if the main thing is achrayas, yeah, so as long as the guy doesn't tell the Jew he potter, it's not enough. The guy has to tell the Jew you're potter. The fact that he put it on the ground and then comes another Jew and takes it from the ground, it's not enough. Maybe he looks at it, there's still in the achrayas of the yid, and we're soon going to see the Chavaz Das understands it that way, that he only becomes potter when the next Jew takes it over. When the next Jew takes it over, he becomes potter, but until then he's not potter from the achrayas. So therefore, if he doesn't take it, just don't put it on the ground, the guy thinks that the money never became his. For him, I had a loan with this Jew, put it on the ground, the next guy's going to come and take it. But as long as there's nobody else coming and taking over the loan, it's not my problem. But if the main thing is near the Karibis, then they shouldn't pass from one hand to another hand, so then you put it on top of the ground, l'chayra should be enough to remove the element of the hand. But still, as long as a Jew is still there, there's still a form of achrayas over there. Still some form of achrayas. And even if it's not passing yad liyad, you also have the element of madasayin, because one Jew puts it down, next Jew walks in, there's a Jew on one side of the box, a Jew on the other side of the box, it looks like he's taking yad liyad. When I come with a big box, I don't have to pass it directly to the guy. I could put, if I want to pay somebody, miyad liyad could also mean putting an envelope on the table. It's al gabe. I didn't give it to him in his hand. It's still miyad liyad. So I put it down on the table in front of the guy, and another Jew took it. It could be, and I'm still there. It could be like it just went from one to another. That seems to be the Taz.
So we say this we said the same thing in the Alva and regular without it. When a lady takes borrows from Shiman something and he gives her back. We say the same thing that he has to be from that if he puts it on the floor.
Yeah, that's a kufchaf. That's the whole side of the question against the BCS is from that Siman in Shulchan Aruch in kufchaf. Yeah, the Chavaz Das explains that what does nistalik mean? Nistalik doesn't mean that you leave the room. Nistalik means that the first one becomes nistalik from his chayv. When the second one picks up the money, then automatically the first one is nistalik from his chayv. But as long as the money is not picked up from the ground, whether the guy picks it up or the other Jew picks it up, the first one still has a charayis. And therefore, you have to leave the room. You have to leave the house. At that point, when you leave it, then you're ois achrayis. But as long as the first one is still there, the first one could turn back and pick it up from the ground. Still, you can still take it. Even if he says we potter, yeah, because you say you put it down, but then he could pick it back up. It seems like it's to pick it back up. But if he leaves, he can't pick it up anymore. And therefore, the second one could come and take it. And at that moment, when the second one picks it up, is when the first one is nistalik mechayver. So according to the Chavaz Das, it means mitzad achrayis. It's a Chavaz Das, a long Chavaz Das, Shiur Sifkot Gimel, that discusses the whole idea of achrayis, separates between achrayis. What does it become achrayis? He says, mitzad, if you look at it from the element of achrayis, as long as the second one did not pick it up, it's still under the achrayis of the first one. But the Isur Ribis doesn't apply anymore. Why? Because he's not there. The fact that the next Jew didn't pick it up, the Jew number one still has a chrayas on it. But since he walked out of the room, he's no longer looks like Ribis. Therefore, he has to leave. So the main thing is the achrayas. The main thing is the ma'asayin more than the achrayas. Obviously, if there's achrayas, we have to get rid of the issue of achrayas. So as long as he's there, so when his achrayas and there is ma'asayin, he can pick it up himself, or somebody else can pick it up in front of him. And it looks like he's taking it directly from one to another. But if he's not there, then there's no more the issue of achrayas, There's no more the issue of Marisayin, and that is the Ikr. It seems like Alter Rebbe holds also that even though Alter Rebbe in the beginning of the Seif focuses on the idea of Achrayis, ultimately it seems like he's more to the issue of Marisayin, and that's why in the second case, when he says put it on the ground of Potter, even though you could say that there is Achrayis, being that there's no more Marisayin, and by the time he walks out, when he's stalik, that element that eliminates the Marisayin, so it's considered that there's no more Marisayin, and in such a scenario, it is mutter.